first guest tonight has a very good view of the bureaucratic stalemate that our country's budget and economy are subject to on Capitol Hill. Senator Orrin Hatch is Republican of Utah. He sits on the Finance Joint Taxation Committees, the Judiciary Committee, and a number of others. Senator, great to have you with us.
Nice to be with you, Lou.
Senator, let's start with this budget impasse. I mean, these are startling numbers. We're talking about 2 years since the Senate has moved a budget. How in the world can you run a government? How can anyone run a government with this kind of inaction?
You know, they had 60 votes the first while and the first year, and then they still have 59 votes, or had 59 votes the second. And all I can say is that, you know, there hasn't been a budget in 2 years from this president, 2.5 years now. And how do you run a country without a budget? And they just cannot get the Democrats together because most of them want to spend even more.
Spend even more.
Yeah.
Speaker Boehner today being adamant in his statement, saying that the spending cuts will exceed whatever the debt ceiling is ultimately raised by. What do you think must be done, could be done, should be done here to bring sense and reason and prudence and responsibility to the budget process and to government itself?
We're going to have to get more fiscal conservatives in the Congress. You know, when the Democrats can't get a budget in better than 2 years and really do not have any answers as to what to do other than raise taxes, which isn't the answer. If you raise taxes 100% on every millionaire in this country, you would probably pick up a little less than $1 trillion. But the deficit alone this year is $1.6 trillion, and nobody's going to raise 100% taxes against every one of the millionaires. It isn't the tax increases that we need. What we need is spending reduction, and everybody knows it. We're spending 25.3% of our gross national product. I mean, that's never been done before since 1945 at the height of the Second World War. And it's not the new norm. We've got to get back to where the norm is somewhere around 18.6 or 20% to 20%. And that's what we've got to do in order to keep spending under control and get this country back.
And yet this president, Senator, as you well know, is promising his supporters, his sponsors, if you will, and his base that he is absolutely going to let the Bush tax cuts expire. He will not renew them, he avows. What is business to do? How in the world is anyone to react in the midst of a slowdown of the proportions and the dimensions that we're experiencing, knowing full well we face the prospect of what would be the biggest tax hike in history?
Look, they spent over $1 trillion. The increase in spending just this last couple of years is 24%, and if you add the stimulus program to that, it's 84% additional spending. All they can think about is more and more spending, and that's what's kept them in power all these years. We now have 51% of all households that don't pay any income taxes. Now the Democrats say, well, they pay payroll taxes. Well, everybody does. That's for Social Security. But 23 million of them get refundable tax credits that are a lot more than they pay in payroll taxes. So we're developing a whole group of people who don't care if they ever work. They're going to be okay because they won't have to really pay any taxes at all, while the rest of the ship is manned and propelled by everybody who works, the other 49%. And we all know that 98% of all taxes are put up by the top 50% of all of the people in this country, and only about 2% by the bottom 50%. We've got to get to where we have a reasonable system that understands that we've got to live within ourselves, and we've got to do what is right. Now, if we follow the president, we're going to be $20 trillion in debt, according to his own budget, by 2021. And the interest alone against that debt's going to be $1 trillion. And all we hear from the Democrats is more spending, and they want to raise taxes. I guarantee you, if they raise taxes, you can just absolutely put every dollar bet on it. They'll spend every dime of it. They've done it every time, and they're going to continue to do it.
Will we see a resolution promptly, reasonably on the debt ceiling in your judgment, Senator?
I don't think so, because I don't think Republicans are willing to lift the debt ceiling. You know, we're darned if we do, darned if we don't. If we lift the debt ceiling without substantial savings and spending reductions, then we may be lost. If we If we don't do it, we'll go through some very serious financial trials. But some people believe we've got to set that tone, and we're going to have to face whatever we have to face. Look, when Standard & Poor's comes out with a negative rating, yeah, they kept the AAA bond rating alive, but the negative rating says that's not going to stay alive very long. And then you see Moody's saying that if we don't lift the debt ceiling within a short period of time, that they're going to give us a negative rating. Hey, we deserve a negative rating, and we deserve having enough fiscal conservatives around here in the next election so that we can turn this colossal mess around.
Yeah, and you know, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, I guess my reaction to that, Senator, is, you know, the heck with them. I would like to see the rating of the American people far more valued by our elected officials. I know you value that rating, but my goodness, to see this kind of government, it's sad, and it's, as you say, unsustainable. Senator, well, it's always good to talk with you, and I appreciate you being here.
Nice to talk with you, and thanks for what you do.
Senator.